those hugs. Well, have you been churched? That concludes the service. But what does it make you think of? What do you call to mind? Does it sound like the words of Jesus? Your other teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, that says, if we rise, and if we, and monkey see, where does that leave us? So let's think about this today then, like the manifestation of the great I am, the basis of unity teachings. That I am that I am. And then we've got all these patterned ways that's been handed down to us for millennia. The way the ancestors did it, the way the other communities and cultural influences got a hold of us. And ways then that Jesus worked to demonstrate we are of the divine and of the human, and that they exist together. Not one, not just divine. And that it's my impression and my direct experience that we're like claiming we're the divine. I am that I am. I am perfect, whole, and complete. It's like, but back here at the ranch, I got a bunch of knuckleheads to deal with. Versus, what if our divinity is assured and the work is here? The work, and in the teachings of Jesus, it said the work is going into our humanity, developing our humanity. So we're okay in our divinity. Whew. But our humanness could use some aligning, atonement, if you will. So I think this is the moment in time at Unity on the Bay, the moment in time in our movement to say these exist together, not one or the other. And then there's some work to do in our humanity that cannot be denied anymore. And the ways that we have suppressed, depressed, disowned feelings, hurts, over the years, centuries, and since the creation of time, has built a reservoir of hurts that's being expressed. Have you noticed? So then what if we say, okay, I'm going to join that, I'm going to follow these teachings and say, there's work to do here in the humanity, which includes then going forward in my new garden of positivity, also includes that I'm not going to deny that I have hurt. I'm not going to depress and suppress the pain of a broken heart. That is part of my divine job, my divine appointment is to integrate both parts. So then I will have loss and sadness and brokenheartedness and despair and depression and everything that we, from a dualistic mind, called negative. Negative. So it's okay to feel good, and it's not okay to feel, say it, bad, negative. Instead of, it's going to be both. There'll be times that I feel bad. There'll be times I have sadness. There'll be times I'm not wagging my tail. There's going to be times, though, even in that, which the song depicts beautifully, that I still get up. I still find a way to put one foot in front of the other. I can still anticipate. I can still look forward to, even in the pain, so they can live together. The sad and the looking forward to. The losses and the pain and the anticipation of the seeds I've just sown. The looking forward to, the what is coming. So the 12 powers exist here to soothe this part and to create in this part. And then this makes possible creation instead of it's just this, which is impossible to do. Have you noticed that you cannot be happy, happy, happy all the time? And then the pretense about that, the effort it takes to try to pretend. And then what are we teaching the next generations? And if we don't circuit break this, we're going to hand down to them what was handed down to us. When we had sadness, what were some of the messages you got when you were sad as a little guy or little girl? When you were sad, not having the best day, what were the messages you received? Go to your room, adjust that attitude. I'll give you something to cry about. Get yourself together, pull yourself up by the bootstrap. Be strong for mama. Be strong for daddy. Be strong for the other children. Be strong for somebody. Anybody relate? What are the messages you took in like that as little folks? And it's like, can we commit today that we're going to be the one that does not hand down that same thing to the next generations, that says there'll be times of sadness? Mommy, I'm sad. It's like, join the club, honey. What would ease this for you? Like, that's a part of creation. That's part of the world. That's a part of the reality we live in. It's normal. It's natural. No problem. And then things like our positive statements, like, it's all good. It's all good. Here, apparently so. In the absolute, apparently so. That's all the reports. Back here at the ranch, does it all feel good all the time? All together? We can have a little choir for Dale. No. It does not feel good all the time. Then life blows through and says, yeah, here's a diagnosis, and here's an eviction, and here's a abandonment, and here's a rejection, and here's a divorce, and here's a disease, and here's your beloved minister wanting to retire. The gall. Life without Chris? Who voted? And it's like, so let the sadness be. Like, I'm having images of coming back, and all the times I've been coming down here, for example, I've never been here when he's not been here. I've never been here without an experience of him. So then my mind is already projecting images into a future of like what it's going to be like when I come back and Chris ain't here. It's like, well, wait a minute. I can feel that. I can also see that it's fine that it's there, that it exists. I can also see that it's caused by imaging. I can see it's caused by a projection of my mind. So I see the cause of that sadness. Then I can see, I'll miss Chris, you betcha. And we'll talk about it like a dog. I mean, that's what you get when you leave, you know? So we'll just rake him over the coals. We'll talk about all of our tales of him. And then it's like this anticipation. Like, what will you create in the meantime? The anticipation, the looking forward to. This senior minister that is a senior minister that's been here in this ministry, serving this ministry as long as Chris has. right? 17 years, 16, 17 years, longer than Chris Jackson's been here. So it's like, what's possible? What's possible then? It's like an anticipation of that. So the loss and the anticipation coinciding. Like the and then the and it's both and. And this is the teachings of unity. It's the teachings of Jesus. And in unity, it's the Alpha and the Omega, not one or the other, but both and. So this is our chance, folks, to live this out. To say this is reality, that I've become a mystic this morning. That I'm not going to see this from this little hurt 3-year-old that's still trying to run my show. I'm going to see it like a mystic sees it, like a sage would see it, like the master teachers saw it. Like every faith tradition has said Alpha and Omega, both and. And then somewhere along the way, our know-it-all mind said, let me draw me a little line down through here and call it good and bad, or worse than or better than. Instead of, I got to take that line down and get back to reality, the Alpha and Omega, the both and. So then, this feelings of loss, sadness, grief, which is how grief is defined, as conflicting feelings. It's what grief is. And you know this already. It's nothing I can really teach or convey this morning. You've had a deep loss, and at the same time you had that loss, there was some relief to it also. Even the people closest to us. Grief and relief, strangely existing together. And then change is, I asked some 5-year-olds, and they said, to be avoided. This is what we've handed down to them. Instead of change is normal, change is natural. Watch nature. Look at a picture of when you were 5 years old. What happened? Change is normal, natural. It's the laws of the universe. I also asked these little 5-year-olds things like, when I was saying like monkey see, monkey do, time heals all. And it's like, it's not true. These are myths about loss. It's like actions heal it. Nature heals it. And when I asked them questions like that, like children should be heard and not, and they answered, not spanked or grounded. And it's like, we're doing that to ourselves. We're doing it to ourselves so we can use the lightheartedness of children to come through some of this. Now, imagine you've just hit your hand with a hammer. Can you imagine what that would feel like? Ah! Now, imagine somebody walking up to you and going, now don't feel that pain. You didn't do that on purpose. How would that be helpful? And you wouldn't dare do that to another soul. Don't feel the pain. So it's critical. It's critical for us at this juncture here to not do some of the things we've been taught to do. And then any attempt to bypass what we've called negative emotion can and will have disastrous consequences for us. To you personally, to relationships, your family, your marital affairs, and to this community. So any attempt to avoid this sends this emotion into the underground. So then it festers. It's like a boiling pot. And then with the right amount of boiling, it's a pressure cooker. And then it's looking for a way to blow. So our contribution to this smooth transition through the change and this natural occurrence that's happening here is to do our own spiritual work and to care for our own emotional process and to know that you don't have to do it alone, nor can you do some of it alone, which is what a spiritual community is for. So we can do this together. So you have all sorts of groups and classes and teachings and ways and means here in chaplaincy, pastoral care, these extraordinary leaders here available to sit with you, to share this, and to witness this. And then together we can do what cannot be done alone. And together we rise. And together we have sustainability, a thriving life, thriving relationships, thriving community. So here are some myths about times of loss, times of change, times of doubt or confusion or worry, and this demand to know how it's all going to turn out. So see if you can debunk these for yourself and demyth them, and certainly not hand them down. So the myths are, don't feel bad. So what are you going to do? Feel bad sometimes. Admit that I feel bad. Admit that I have sadness. Admit that I'm having some difficulty here, and I'm calling forth the powers within me, my own Christ-like nature, to activate here in this, and then to reach out to my tribe, my community, to say, I'm having these emotions here. Like give me a hug, give me a prayer, give me something here that can witness this with me. Don't tell me not to feel the pain. Replace the loss is a myth. Now this applies if you imagine like a child that lost his little pet, or you when you lost your pet. How many people said, oh, we'll go Saturday and get you a new one? You ever heard it? Don't worry, we'll go Saturday and get you a new one. It's like that new pet is not a replacement for the pet that just died, because there is no replacing that pet that just died. That loss is 100%. So Chris Jackson's and your loss around him, Reverend Chris, the losses of that cannot be filled by Reverend Juan. He can't do it. It's impossible. So we can't see this new senior minister role as something that's going to replace your losses, whatever you have around Chris. So it's two different things. So we can't pin that on him. There's a myth to grieve alone. When we laugh together. When we cry, we... Myth, not helpful. More depression, more despair, more addictions. It's where everything kicks in. So it's like I'm going to find somebody to grieve with. I'm going to do some of my grieving in group, in session, counselors, coaches, mentors, chaplains. So I'm going to do the opposite of these myths. And then you've got to be strong. What's the opposite? Be vulnerable, be authentic, be truthful, be a full human being. I'm going to be a full human being. Keep busy. Anybody heard this one? Anybody good at it besides this one? It's like I'm going to keep busy, but I'm not going to spiritually bypass the feelings that I'm having either. And then all loss, all grief heals in its own timing. Have you noticed? And it's healed by very specific little actions that we can take. Something we can actually do. So just for example, if you went out and your tire's flat on your car, you wouldn't pull up a chair and go, I'll just sit here till air comes back in my tire. right? No, you would do something. You would do something, take some action, call for some help. Where's Jason? Get AAA, like you'd call for something. Take action. And then this recovery, this time that we're in, your time individually, your time in the emotional unit you're in, your time in this emotional unit as a spiritual community will be created by you and how you are in this time and how you are together in this time. That gives me a lot of hope. That gives me a lot of faith and a lot of certainty about who you are and your miracle-making qualities and your spiritual maturity and your emotional maturity that understands it's both, not one or the other. And I'd love you to make a commitment this morning to leave nothing unfinished about this. Whatever needs to be kind of tended to, looked at, pulled at, replaced, because any unfinished business, any kind of weeds left in the garden, what happens if you leave the weeds there? It takes over. So any unfinished business in our lives, in our hearts, in our relationships, and including with these, any unresolved, unfinished business carries forward. It carries forward. So any failure then to process this, to integrate this, will limit the way we live, will limit the way we create. It will limit what we can become. So it's incumbent on us who can to say, I'll do the opposite of that. And that I'm claiming my own miracle making. And I, the miracle maker, am going to do whatever's necessary here to heal, to resolve, to integrate, and to create what I want to see in my own life and what I want to be a part of in a spiritual community, Unity on the Bay. And I know who you are. I know what you are. I know whose you are. And I know what you will do. Greater things than ever before you will do and you will be. And I'm cheering you on all the way. An angel brought in these cards. They've been handed to you. And the invitation is for you to take them home with you. And in prayerful contemplation, in your meditation practice maybe, or with your favorite cup of tea, to write a love note, a note of appreciation and thanks and whatever your heart wants or needs to express, one for Reverend Juan and one for Reverend Chris. And there'll be a depository here. You can put them in next week. You can put them in the prayer box, or you can mail them to them. And this is why they've been provided for you, to let your heart say what needs to be said, whatever it is. I love you. I bless you. I know who you are, and I lift you up, cheer you on in all ways. MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.